Seems to be business as usual for two of the biggest names at Fox Sports 1. Accused of bad behavior in an explosive lawsuit, Skip Bayless, the former sports commentator, is still updating his Instagram with his latest football takes, even as commenters hound him about whether he really offered a former hairstylist more than $1 million to sleep with him. And Joy Taylor was back as host on FS1 show Speak as she faces accusations of racism and using sex to launch her meteoric rise to the top. We're going to take a closer look, though, at the allegations made against Taylor more specifically, and we're going to do that right now. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. 37-year-old Joy Taylor is being talked about a lot right now by sports fans, legal analysts, but not for her takes on the biggest games. No, because she is named as a defendant in a sweeping sexual and workplace misconduct lawsuit against her employer, Fox Sports 1. A former hairstylist, the plaintiff in this case, Noushin Faraji, has filed a lawsuit, both for her individual claims and in a class action lawsuit. And she says she knows Taylor. She did Taylor's hair for her on-hair hosting gigs for years, and at one point the two were even friends. But Faraji claims Taylor took things too far. And now she says she created a hostile work environment. So to start off, as we talk about the claims against Joy Taylor more specifically, who is she? Who is Joy Taylor? Well, she was born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. She went to Barry University. This is a Catholic school in Miami Shores, Florida, where she graduated in 2009 with a degree in broadcast communications. She was manager of the school's radio station while she was there. This is according to The Vibe. And eventually, she got a job working as a producer for a Miami radio station known as 790 AM The Ticket. She went on to co-host a morning drive sports radio show before going national with a job at CBS Sports. And she was the host of Fantasy Football Tuesday and Thursday Night Live on CBSSports.com, according to her company bio. But then she joined Fox Sports in 2016 and became the moderator for Skip and Shannon Undisputed. This was a debate-style show featuring Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharpe, two very big personalities. And as we know, the two men would later have a public falling out. The show would later be canceled. But let's talk about Taylor, because Taylor has a very large social media presence. In fact, nearly 800,000 followers on Instagram. And she not only posts her takes on sports stories, but she also provides advice on pop culture, relationships, alongside glamorous travel shots, photo shoots. In fact, on at least two separate occasions, Taylor got a bit personal. She addressed her experience in an abusive relationship. In 2014, she wrote a piece for Miami's Community News in response to the video of football legend Ray Rice beating his fiancée in an elevator. She wrote, "I am not a weak person. I have endured years of abuse since I was a child. I never thought as an adult I would allow someone to take my power and control me. I defended him and stood by him. I lied for him. I threw out my morals and convictions. I was very blessed to have people around me who were stronger than me, people who pushed me to leave and reminded me every day, despite my depression and darkness, that I could take control and leave." And in 2017, on an episode of Undisputed, she talked about live on air about the struggle of being a survivor of domestic violence. But now she stands accused of using her sexuality to get ahead, and later her position at Fox Sports to bully a fellow staff member. You see, Taylor is mentioned by name more than 80 times in Noushin Faraji's civil complaint, which was filed at the end of last week in the Superior Court of Los Angeles. Hey, so our plan is to keep on following this Joy Taylor and Skip Bayless story for you. And with that in mind, I have to thank our sponsor, Upside, because it's with their support that helps make episodes like this possible. Now, if you don't know what it is, Upside is great. It is a free app that helps you get cash back when you buy daily essentials like gas, groceries, food. This is real cash back. It's money that appears in your Upside app that you transfer right into your bank account. Look here, I used Upside to find a gas station near me. I claimed an offer on the app, pay with my credit card at the pump, followed the steps on the app, and I got cash back. It is so simple, and you can use Upside at all different kinds of places, restaurants, convenience stores. So to find out how much you can earn, you click the link in the description to download Upside, or you scan the QR code on screen, but make sure to use our promo code SIDEBAR because you'll get an extra 25 cents back on every gallon on your first tank of gas. Hope you can check it out. Now, much of the reaction to the lawsuit has been focused primarily on Skip Bayless, the 73-year-old sports commentator who Faraji says made her uncomfortable in the workplace. She accuses him of sexual harassment, saying he made excuses to touch her or give her extended hugs and kisses when she gave him a haircut each week. And she even alleges he offered her $1.5 million to have sex with him, an offer that she says she was mortified to hear and quickly declined. But now we want to focus more on Taylor in this complaint. What wrongdoing is she accused of? So we're going to do a little bit of a deeper dive into the specific allegations made against her. And by the way, at the time of this recording, she has yet to make any sort of public statement about Faraji's lawsuit. And Ms. Taylor is back on the airwaves. We'll talk about that too, but let's get into the complaint. So the complaint reads, quote, "Defendant Joy Taylor is a media personality and television host for Fox. She co-hosts the show Speak on FS1. At all relevant times, Ms. Taylor was an agent of Fox and had authority to make decisions impacting Ms. Faraji's employment." By the way, that's important in an agent kind of context because you're saying her actions should hold the company responsible. Just keep that in mind. Upon information and belief, Ms. Taylor is a resident of the state of California. Now, according to Faraji, Taylor had moved from Miami to Los Angeles in March of 2016, reportedly with the express intention of trying to get airtime on Fox. And she would occasionally fill in if the regular host was out, didn't really have a permanent position yet. But Taylor and Faraji became friends. And when that happened, Faraji says she learned that Taylor was recently married, but that her husband had stayed behind in Miami. So at the time, Faraji had been working part-time for Fox Sports as a hairstylist and barber for Fox Sports 1 Talent. And then she was hired full-time in 2016. So this is around the same time that Taylor started to climb the professional ladder. Well, not long after arriving in Los Angeles, Faraji says that Taylor's behavior started to blur the lines between personal and professional. That's her allegation. So the complaint reads, in approximately May of 2016, Ms. Taylor asked Ms. Faraji to meet for a drink in Santa Monica. When Ms. Faraji arrived, she found Ms. Taylor with an older man, Fox Sports' Executive Vice President of Content, Mr. Dixon, Charlie Dixon. As Executive Vice President, Mr. Dixon is responsible for overseeing all content and production on FS1. Ms. Faraji, however, did not know Mr. Dixon. When Mr. Dixon went to buy them another round of spicy margaritas, Ms. Faraji asked who he was. Ms. Taylor responded that he was just a friend. Following that night, whenever Ms. Faraji would meet with Ms. Taylor for drinks or food, Mr. Dixon would either arrive with Ms. Taylor or show up later in the night and leave with Ms. Taylor. He would always buy rounds of drinks and or food. From their body language, Ms. Faraji suspected that the pair were sleeping with each other. And although this concerned Ms. Faraji, as she knew Ms. Taylor was recently married, Ms. Faraji kept her opinions to herself. The complaint goes on to say, in approximately June of 2016, while at work, Ms. Faraji noticed Mr. Dixon in the elevator. Surprised by the coincidence, Ms. Faraji found Ms. Taylor and told her excitedly, "The guy who always buys us our drinks was in the elevator." Ms. Taylor quickly silenced Ms. Faraji, explaining who he was. Ms. Faraji became alarmed and warned Ms. Taylor that such a relationship was unsafe. Ms. Taylor told her not to worry about it. Ms. Faraji continued to be friends with Ms. Taylor, but tried to distance herself as she considered the situation dangerous as well as morally wrong, as Ms. Taylor and Mr. Dixon were both married. So then we go to July of 2016, and apparently word started to spread that there was going to be this big show, this new show that was coming to FS1 starring Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharpe. I talked about it before, this Undisputed show. Now, company executives have reportedly been looking for a woman to host the show as well. And according to Faraji, they were looking for somebody who had some pretty serious TV experience. Well, the complaint says, therefore, it came as a surprise when Fox announced that Ms. Taylor, who is a bartender and radio host in Miami with very little TV experience, would be the moderator of the new show, a sports debate program, Skip and Shannon Undisputed. Now, according to a press release from Fox Sports, which has now been removed from their website, President of Fox Sports National Networks, Jamie Horowitz, made the announcement saying, "Joy loves fearless sports talk and is a natural match for Skip and Shannon. Since joining the Fox Sports team, she's hosted several shows and proved she has what it takes to work with the best." And Taylor herself said at the time, "I'm very excited for the opportunity to work with Skip Bayless, the top opinionist in the business, and Shannon Sharpe, legendary NFL tight end and Hall of Famer. I love a good debate and look forward to sitting with these two and seeing what happens every day." But the lawsuit reads, Mr. Bayless later disclosed to Ms. Faraji that he didn't want Miss Taylor on the show, but Mr. Dixon was adamant that Miss Taylor should star. And again, think about that based on this alleged relationship between the two of them. The complaint says at first, Mr. Dixon arranged a dinner between Mr. Bayless and Miss Taylor, where she arrived in provocative clothing and acted in a provocative manner. When that did not change Mr. Bayless's opinion of Miss Taylor, Mr. Dixon asked him to approve of her as a favor to him. Reluctantly, Mr. Bayless agreed to do so as a favor to his friend. So it seems there wasn't immediate love between some of Fox Sports' hottest stars, and the alleged relationship between Taylor and Executive Vice President Charlie Dixon was reportedly maybe not as secret as they thought. I think that could be a fair argument. But then the lawsuit says that around 2016, Ms. Faraji attended a dinner with Ms. Taylor and her husband and Mr. Dixon and his wife. During the dinner, Ms. Taylor's husband became suspicious that Ms. Taylor and Mr. Dixon were having a sexual relationship. Soon after the dinner, Ms. Taylor's husband found evidence of the inappropriate relationship and divorced Ms. Taylor. So all of this really sets up the power dynamics that Faraji says were going on, right? Because to be clear, none of this relates to Faraji yet, right? Taylor hasn't allegedly done anything to Faraji yet in this narrative, in this complaint. But the bottom line is that she was friends with Taylor, and when Taylor was selected to moderate on Undisputed, she had requested Faraji to be her hairstylist. So she's becoming more powerful. The two are becoming close. Now, at the time, talking about their close relationship, the two women often posted on Instagram about the different ways that Faraji would do Taylor's hair. And Faraji eventually started cutting Bayless's hair too. So now that leads us to 2017, when Faraji went to Taylor's birthday party at a rooftop bar. She says at that party, Dixon was there. He was drinking heavily. She claims he approached her, started touching her lower back, and asked if she wanted to do shots. Faraji says she told him no, but then he allegedly groped her behind. Faraji's complaint says Ms. Faraji did not know who to turn to, but as she knew Ms. Taylor was sleeping with Mr. Dixon, she turned to her. Surprisingly, Ms. Taylor responded to get over it and explained that she herself only had her job because of Mr. Dixon, and that Ms. Faraji only had her job because Ms. Taylor requested her. She warned that Mr. Dixon could take both away. Now, this was not the only time that Taylor reportedly wanted Faraji to, quote, get over incidents involving her coworkers. You see, Faraji lays out this other incident where a female talent member, just called Anonymous in the complaint, had lunch with Faraji. The complaint reads there, Anonymous told Ms. Faraji that she would no longer be with Fox as Mr. Dixon told her that she would need to have sex with him if she wanted to renew her contract, but she had refused. Anonymous further conveyed that 1, Mr. Dixon was doing this to other women talent, 2, she should warn Ms. Taylor to be careful, and 3, a talk show host had recently reported Mr. Dixon. So following the lunch, Ms. Faraji called Ms. Taylor to convey what Anonymous had stated. Ms. Taylor responded that no one gives an F about Anonymous or the talk show host who had reported Mr. Dixon. So quite the allegation there. And again, according to Faraji's account, despite Taylor allegedly having this affair with Dixon that led to a divorce, according to Faraji, it appears this relationship was ongoing. And she claims that in 2018, Taylor's new fiancé broke off their engagement. After, quote, learning of Miss Taylor and Mr. Dixon's sexual relationship, Miss Taylor's then fiancé broke off the engagement and threatened to go public with all that he knew. On information and belief, Mr. Dixon paid for the wedding deposits in an informal exchange for her fiancé's silence. So when we say information and belief, it's basically saying that's what we currently believe happened, but as this litigation progresses, as we go through discovery, we'll be able to prove that. But essentially what Faraji is alleging is that Dixon paid for part of his lover and her fiancé's wedding as a way to keep him quiet. Again, quite a stunning allegation. But again, how does this relate back to Faraji? What is the wrongdoing there? We're going to get to that. But I should also say that Miss Faraji, this hairstylist, she doesn't just allege this, she also alleges that Dixon may not have been the only Fox Sports 1 employee that Taylor was having sex with. In approximately February 2020, Ms. Taylor asked Ms. Faraji to meet her for lunch in Beverly Hills. When Ms. Faraji arrived, she found Ms. Taylor with a man, Emmanuel Acho. Ms. Faraji did not know Mr. Acho, but could tell that the two were romantically involved. A few months after meeting Mr. Acho at the lunch, Ms. Faraji noticed him in the hallway while at work. Ms. Faraji later asked Ms. Taylor if Mr. Acho also worked at Fox. Ms. Taylor confirmed and explained that she wanted Mr. Acho to eventually recommend her on the show Speak for Yourself. Ms. Faraji became alarmed and warned Ms. Taylor that she should probably not sleep with Mr. Dixon and Mr. Acho at the same time, as Mr. Dixon is a very powerful man that may become very angry. Ms. Taylor told her not to worry about it. And this part's important. She explained that she was also now powerful, and once Mr. Dixon was no longer useful to her, she would follow through on her plan to tell the company that he forced himself on her. She would not allow herself to be forced out by Mr. Dixon like other women talent. That power dynamic, again, very, very important. That power dynamic between Taylor and Faraji is so important because Faraji felt, or the allegation could be, that she felt Taylor was gaining more of an ability to get her way, to do what she wants, even if that was to the detriment of other people in the company. And that's when we get into, finally, in the complaint, what the allegations are against Taylor specifically. Because the allegations are that Taylor bullied Faraji. So she had been Taylor's hairstylist for around 7 years at this point, according to the lawsuit. And Faraji had followed Taylor from show to show at the network, reportedly at Taylor's request. But that changed. Faraji's lawsuit says, in October 2021, Ms. Faraji's friendship with Ms. Taylor ended. Ms. Taylor then began insulting Ms. Faraji on a personal and professional level. In early June 2023, the treatment reached a breaking point as Ms. Taylor began openly mocking Ms. Faraji's English, exclaiming that she could not understand Ms. Faraji's accent and complaining about Ms. Faraji's humming, an involuntary subconscious coping mechanism for her diagnosed PTSD. And by the way, if she can present those records of a diagnosis like that, it will definitely help her case about a disability, which we'll get to in a minute. Now, according to Faraji, Taylor reportedly started telling other people at FS1 that she needed a black stylist to work on her hair. And this is despite the lawsuit saying Faraji had had decades of experience working with textured hair. Quote, Ms. Faraji's June 1st, 2023 diary entry states, and by the way, if you have a real copy of that entry, and it can be authenticated that it was written at that time, will definitely help. But Ms. Faraji's June 1st, 2023 diary entry states, she's been acting like because I'm not black, I'm stupid. She keeps saying black girls' hair should be done like this, not how you do it. I've been doing her hair for 7 years. She keeps making me feel that my English is not good. She keeps making comments like, oh, white girls are dumb. Now, Faraji says after the comments had started, her supervisor, Gina Peretti, pulled her into her office to ask if she wanted to not work on the show Speak anymore. But Faraji insisted she wanted to continue to work there. But this is where the complaint says, quote, Miss Peretti told Miss Faraji that she should just leave the room when Miss Taylor was acting out. By the way, if that is true, that is not really how a company is supposed to address these instances of discrimination or harassment. Doesn't really work like that, so that's a big no-no. Anyway, going forward. Miss Faraji noticed that this was a pattern. When Miss M bullied Miss Faraji, Human Resources told her to leave the room, and now when Miss Taylor bullied Miss Faraji, Miss Peretti again told her to leave the room. By the way, who is Miss M? Well, Faraji explains in the complaint, quote, in approximately 2020, Jane Doe, Miss M, an employee at Fox, began demonstrating erratic behavior. One night at an informal dinner at Mastro's Steakhouse, she grew irrationally enraged with Miss Faraji and screamed, F you, you Persian B word. The dinner ended after Miss B broke a glass and threatened to harm herself. So, what happened when all of this was occurring? Well, according to Faraji, Peretti, again her supervisor, then reportedly cut her hours back. Miss Peretti then hired 2 new black hairstylists to work from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. As Miss Taylor is very picky with her hair, she did not like the work of the 2 new black hairstylists and asked a coworker who is a Latina woman to do her hair 5 days a week. The coworker declined. On July 31st, 2023, Kelsey Doe, Miss Doe of Employee Relations, asked Miss Faraji for a meeting. Miss Doe abruptly changed the conversation and quickly asked whether she had made public comments regarding Mr. Dixon and Miss Taylor having sex. Miss Faraji became very scared, as Mr. Dixon had previously assaulted her and Miss Taylor had warned her that he would fire her if she said anything, and responded that while everyone in the company knew about the relationship, she didn't have any information and didn't want to comment about it. Now, I'm going to get into the causes of action against Taylor in a minute, but since Faraji is filing this lawsuit, she's filing it against multiple people and companies, but she is also requesting a class action lawsuit to be certified moving forward. And this would be against Fox Sports, and it would be on behalf of other employees who believe they weren't compensated correctly, like Ms. Faraji says she wasn't. So clearly there are a lot of moving parts to this filing. Some causes of action apply to just Fox. There are others that call it individuals, but we're going to focus right now on the ones naming Joy Taylor. So those are causes of actions 9 and 10 in the complaint. Number 9 is hostile work environment, race, or national origin. So the California Fair Employment and Housing Act, it prohibits harassment or discrimination on the basis of race or national origin in the workplace. So you have to show that you're part of a protected class, and here Faraji says that is her race or national origin, which is Iranian. And then she also has to prove that she was subjected to unwelcome harassment because of that protected class, and that harassment unreasonably interfered with her work performance, and the company is responsible for that. So the lawsuit says, quote, Ms. Taylor and others consistently ridiculed Ms. Faraji's English proficiency based on her race and or national origin, and Ms. Taylor and others questioned her job performance based on her race and or national origin, using that as an excuse to take her off shows. You have to wonder, of course, as a defense, will Taylor just say that her complaints were about Ms. Faraji's performance, that it didn't have anything to do with her protected class as an Iranian woman? But Faraji is also suing Taylor, claiming that she created a hostile work environment based on disability. So this act that I mentioned before also prohibits discrimination or harassment on the basis of disability. The complaint reads, Ms. Faraji has diagnosed PTSD and was subject to severe and pervasive harassment because of her disability. Specifically, after many years of working together without incident, in June of 2023, Ms. Taylor began complaining about Ms. Faraji's humming, an involuntary subconscious coping mechanism for her diagnosed PTSD. And Faraji claims that when she was scolded for humming, she explained that she has this issue. But not long after that, not long after Taylor had started to complain about the humming, Faraji says she was removed as a stylist from the show Speak. Now, going back to a legal defense for Taylor, it does become a question if this was communicated to Taylor. Did Taylor know about this PTSD apparent issue? That will be interesting to see, because she is named as a defendant in this cause of action. So she might not have known about the claimed PTSD issue and just thought the humming was, I don't know, annoying or something like that. Now, Faraji is reportedly looking for compensation for hours that she wasn't paid correctly, as well as damages. Now, in response to the lawsuit, Fox Sports issued a statement to the outlet Front Office Sports saying, "We take these allegations seriously and have no further comment at this time, given this pending litigation." And as for Joy Taylor, as I mentioned before, she is returned to her hosting duties on Speak. In fact, on Monday this happened, and she has continued to post on her Instagram page. But so far, she hasn't made any statements about this lawsuit. But I will tell you, according to outlets like Athlon Sports, Fox keeping her on the air has been met with some backlash online. For example, it was reported that one user on X wrote, "So we're just going to let her keep her job after she said she would falsely accuse men of sexual assault if she didn't get what she wanted? Got it." Another user wrote, "She was accused of workplace misconduct involving a woman coworker. If she was a man, she would have been placed on leave." So again, some harsh reaction there. We will see what happens next. That's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. I'll speak to you next time.